The weather's miserable. Van Straten's miserable. We've been here since 5 o'clock. It's now 6 o'clock. We've just about got over the technical difficulties in order to start this week's Continental Club. But I know what will cheer you up, mate. It's talking about the hottest topics in European football.
I was hoping I was getting
starting with Monaco. They've been unpicked, haven't they, this summer? All the big clubs, they're circling like vultures. Are the players that remain. What do they need to do in order to maintain last season's incredible form under Jardim, Pato?
I think they need to have realistic expectations about what this season can be. I mean, last year they won a title which was pretty unexpected, and they didn't win it by an awful lot, really. They went hugely deep in the Champions League, which I think nobody expected, and there probably was some good luck there as well against Man City and against Borussia Dortmund. They've already lost a bunch of guys. You know, Silva's gone. There are rumours that Lamar might go, Mendy might go, of course Fabinho might go, Bakayoko's out the door. So I think what they need to do is just look at the players they've brought in. They're focusing on youth. That's the right thing. What they need to say is, we might not compete with PSG this season or the season after, we might not get to the semi-finals of the Champions League again, but in 5 years, 10 years, we can definitely do that. When you look at their signings, they've brought in Tielemans, Mete, Mbula, Gaspar, all these kind of young...
Mbula's the one from Barcelona, right? Who scored that incredible solo goal.
Yeah, Barcelona and Gaspar's from Lyon, you know, they're raiding some of the best academies in the world. And it really kind of bodes well for the future. Those guys are going to contribute to the team. Plus they've got guys already there like Gil Diaz, Georges, Bosquilla, Almami Toure. These are all young, exciting players. And I think that if they put their faith in them, then invest in them. And by that, I don't just mean buy them, but I mean give them minutes. Then the future is pretty bright for Monaco. But this season, I don't think they should expect to maintain their form. I don't think they should expect to retain the title.
That's a pretty emphatic answer. Carrot Top, have you got anything to add to that?
I haven't got too much. However, if I was Monaco's board, I would be sort of...
Don't swing on your chair, by the way. You've got to focus.
Sorry, I would be aiming to sort of emulate Borussia Dortmund to a level. I'd let PSG be the big guns, taking all the big name signings, and then look to pick off the young, talented prospects from around France, because there are plenty of them, as they've done in the past. Spending around 50 to 60 million pound a window like they have this window, and then selling them on for 300 million, and then slowly but surely regaining some sort of stature, some sort of
don't need the money
level
though,
of
do they,
football.
Joe? Owned by Russian billionaires.
Of course they don't need the money, but they're never going to be able to compete on a financial scale with PSG in terms of the wage structure, mainly because of FFP. It's all well and good having big owners, but you've got to bring in big money, and I'm not sure
not
that
a global
Monaco
brand,
do it.
are they? Yeah.
No. In the same way that PSG
barely,
do anyway. But I have to say, the biggest bonus of the summer so far is locking Leonardo Jardim down for another 5 years or 4 years.
Sure.
What a move that is. So many top clubs wanted him, Arsenal among them, so I think they've done really well there.
He was on his way to China.
And they've got to be excited as well that PSG are kind of building their squad in an incoherent way. You know, they've gone and got Dani Alves. He's a great player, but he's 34. They've still got Thiago Motta there. They might lose Verratti. They keep buying duds. You know, Krychowiak and Hesse. Those players haven't worked out. So if PSG swing and miss on a couple more big transfers and Monaco get a couple really right, then that can be the difference between not winning and winning the French league. You know, because they're not, basically PSG aren't as good as Bayern, so they have that advantage.
That brings me nicely to my point. I think similar to what you said in regards to Borussia Dortmund, I think they should take the Bayern Munich approach to things, not just looking to recruit big megastars from abroad, but also raiding teams in their domestic league for the best talent. Like Bayern Munich have signed Nicolas Süle, haven't they, this season? Look to be signing Dembélé, sorry. I think they should be going after the likes of Alessandro Plea from Nice. He is an incredible player, made huge strides this year. Joe's just dropped his phone. I'm going to carry on anyway, like a consummate pro. In 22 appearances this season just passed, Plea scored 11 goals and got 2 assists from a far more central role. He was playing out right, I believe, before. He's gone through a similar evolution that maybe Lacazette did 3 or 4 years ago at Lyon. He's just turned 24. He's a shot monster. Only Cavani and Depay in last season's league and took more shots than Player. So he's getting himself into really good positions.
What about his knees, though?
Yeah, he has had 2 knee operations, which is why I think they might be able to get him for not a cut price fee, but maybe not for the £50 million that's been touted. In France, they're not technically allowed release clauses, are they? But they're finding ways to incorporate that into their contracts through other means. But I think he could be a hell of a transfer, someone, should they take a gamble and that go well. But what do you guys think? Who should Monaco sign? Who should they look to keep hold of? Let us know in the comments below. On the subject of Monaco then, let's talk about Timu Bakayoko's future and his transfer to Chelsea, which at this point seems like a foregone conclusion. Joseph, is this the right move for the Blues?
Well, I think he's going to undergo a medical, isn't he? The reason it's been delayed is because he's had minor knee surgery, or he was on the verge of minor knee surgery. He's had a slight injury, so that's why it's been held up. I'm not sure it is. I think it's a good signing, especially for Chelsea in terms of profile, age. Maybe if you're replacing Matic with him, you're selling Matic to somebody like Inter Milan for about 40 mil. You're bringing in Bakayoko for a similar amount, 6 years younger, similar sort of output. It's quite a smart move, but is that the player Chelsea need to develop that team? I think Kante does enough defensively to warrant I'm trying to word this correctly, a slightly more advanced player than Bakayoko in terms of footballing ability going forward. One assist last season, just 15,
prowess,
one assist last season, just 15 chances created in the whole of Ligue 1. I personally think the perfect player is a hybrid of Matic and Fabregas. Now, if that player exists in the market, I'm not too sure, but I would have gone for Fabinho over Bakayoko. Okay, he's played slightly deeper, but I think more chances created, nearly double the amount of Bakayoko last season. I think he created about 33, so actually more than double. He also offers an option at right back. We know that Chelsea have Victor Moses there, but are they going to maintain a 3 at the back system now that they've signed?
Interesting question.
Now they've signed Rudiger at centre half. I'm not too sure. So for me, it's a good signing in terms of squad depth going in the Champions League, but it's not the perfect signing in that position for the Blues.
What about you, Pat? Does your opinion differ? Would you have gone for Fabinho over Bakayoko?
I don't think I'd have gone for either of them, really. Like, I really like Matic. I think Matic is such a good... I think Joe's absolutely right that you want a different sort of player. I want a guy who can distribute.
That makes you feel ill saying that, by the way.
Well, you know, every now and then I agree with Joe just to make him feel better about himself.
Yeah, somebody's got
to. Look, they need a distributor next to him. That's kind of what you want. And given, look, what is N'Golo Kante really good at? He's good at winning the ball back, and he's great at carrying the ball upfield. What does Bakayoko do? He does a decent amount of defensive work, and he's really good at dribbling. Now, I'm not saying that he and Kante are similar players, but what they give the team tactically, I'm not sure those are sufficiently dissimilar. Like, what I'd want next to them is a guy who can distribute and who can create, because those are the things that Kante struggles in. And actually there, you might be better off going for someone like Seri, or, you know, a slightly bigger version. For instance, Leandro Paredes was on the market for about 30 million euros.
Why such a surprise they didn't go for Tolisso as well? At least they didn't even consider Tolisso in their moves.
I actually think this is a bit more of a gamble than people are perhaps... people perhaps think. I mean, he's really struggled to get into the team in his first 2 years at Monaco. He fell out with Jardim in his second season, was supposedly a little bit immature, you know, did things like buy really garish cars, didn't have a great diet. I remember him being hauled off at one point in the 34th minute against Lorient in his second season. And then Makelele comes into the coaching setup, and apparently he transforms the player. Has a quiet word in his ear. He sells off his garish possessions. Apparently he moves into a more modest flat, gets a nutritionist in, takes up boxing, and he's transformed himself in the last year, but still there's not that back catalogue of excellence and consistency, is there? Another 23, 24-year-old who showed his worth at Monaco and then came good later on in his career was Yaya Touré. And he has drawn some comparisons with Yaya Touré, hasn't he? He's a good dribbler, he reads the game well. Yeah, it's a huge comparison. They're huge boots to fill, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the truth, but if he can develop into half the player Yaya Touré has become, then maybe he's a worthwhile investment. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Another interesting question we've had in, boys, is with the sale of James Rodriguez to Bayern Munich, has Zidane changed the Galacticos policy for the better of the club? Now, in the last 2 seasons, Zidane's obviously bought in Morata, he recalled Asensio from his loan, he's bought Dani Ceballos this season and Teo Hernandez from Atletico Madrid. Let's not talk about those kick-ups.
Yeah,
maybe the most embarrassing unveiling of all time. Vinicius Junior, I'm putting down as a Perez transfer. I think he's tried to get one up on Barcelona there. Obviously, he cost £40 million. So if we take him out of the equation, his net spend for the 2 seasons has actually been plus £1 million.
So far.
Which at Real Madrid has been is an extremely odd trend, isn't it? Boys, what do you think of the latest signings? What do you think to the overall question? I'm going to come to you first, Joseph. Is this for the better of the club, and is this a new trend that we're seeing?
Well, firstly, I want to talk a little bit about the James move, because I actually agree with you. I think it is a little bit of a new trend we're seeing. 2-year loan deal with the option to buy at the end for €35 million. A brilliant bit of business from Bayern Munich, but it's not the first time we've seen it.
The trend being more savvy business, by the way.
it's not the first time we've seen it. We've seen it with Kingsley Coman going from Juventus to Bayern on a 2-year loan option. The reverse is about to happen with Douglas Costa, might well be confirmed by the time this video goes out. We've also seen it with Mehdi Benatia, and Juventus have done it with Juan Cuadrado from Chelsea. I personally think that Bayern Munich and Juventus do the best business of any team in Europe, in terms of buying players fairly cheaply and getting maximum output out of them. And I wonder whether or not that trend of the 2-year loan will start to spread across the rest of Europe. Maybe not to the Premier League, where loan rules are slightly harsher, but if Real Madrid start doing it, you might see Barcelona start doing it, because you can get very, very good young players. I'd be surprised if Renato Sanchez wasn't involved in a loan deal that's very similar this summer as well, by the way, for very cheap amounts. I mean, 35 million euros for a 28-year-old James Rodriguez seems cheap, when Gylfi Sigurdsson's being branded around for £40 million. Yeah. So it's slightly concerning for Premier League teams, but for the rest of Europe, I definitely think it's setting a trend. I think James is a brilliant signing for Bayern Munich. It basically means that they're making a profit getting rid of Douglas Costa and bringing in James Rodriguez. I think James is more versatile, adds more in midfield. Douglas Costa, by the way, looks like he's going for €6 million a year and a €40 million buy-on clause, whereas James has gone €5 million a year and €35 million buyout clause. So brilliant bit of business by Rummenigge yet again. Bayern Munich, best run club in Europe. But back to Real Madrid, I kind of think that it is good business from Zidane.
I mean, not only has he brought these players in, he's also reducing the average age of the squad, right?
Big
We've
time.
got Benzema on 29, Ronaldo 32, Sergio Ramos 31, Modric 31, Toni Kroos 27. So he's got a few years left in the tank yet.
Yeah.
But with like Ceballos, Teo Hernandez coming in, Pato, I think is he going to freshen up any more, do you think? Is he going to bring anyone else in, maybe?
I think he needs to kind of recalibrate the midfield a little bit, because the issue that you have is that when you do pursue a Galacticos policy, you end up with players sitting on the bench who are not happy there. Whereas Dani Ceballos is going to be perfectly happy sitting as a backup to Modric for a couple of seasons, by which point he's 23, 24, and he's ready to take that spot in the first team. By comparison, somebody like Kovacic may not be as happy. Certainly James wasn't happy. Gareth Bale won't be happy. And this is a trend which stems from Zidane's time as a player. As a player, we know that he hated the Galacticos policy. He was the one who complained when Perez sold Makalele in the first place.
To bring him Beckham, right?
So I think that, I'm not sure that it's necessarily a conscious decision. I think that Zidane's just a practical coach, and when a player comes along, he wants them. This way, he kind of keeps his powder dry if he ever needs an absolute superstar, which he almost certainly will when Ronaldo leaves. I think that his aim is to have a functional, coherent squad. That's what he did really well this season. He made almost no major signings last summer and just said, we're going to keep this squad together. We're going to make sure that we all work together. We've just won the Champions League, and somehow they went and won it again. So yeah, I don't know. It almost feels like he's proving a point about the sort of coach he is. He's a motivator, and he creates coherence rather than necessarily kind of doing anything revolutionary.
Deepest squad in Europe now?
No, Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich's midfield and forward line is absolutely stinking.
I mean, if they keep Morata, I think that they can give Bayern a run for their money in squad depth.
Close.
There we have it. What do you guys think? Who's the deepest squad in Europe? Has Zidane been savvy in the transfer market? Let us know in the comments below. Let's finish with the question about Real Madrid's biggest rivals. It's Barcelona. Sorry, Atletico Madrid fans. And the question at hand is, why has the youth production at La Masia slowed right down? Now, when they won the Champions League in 2009, 7 of that squad were from La Masia. They were graduates from the youth system. By the time we fast forward to 2015, when they win it again, only 4 people in the team were from La Masia.
Yeah.
And that was 4 remaining from the original 7
really?
who won it
Okay.
in 2009. So no one new had been added to the equation. We can maybe count Jordi Alba, bought him from Valencia, quite young, didn't they? I'm not going to count him. Don't know about you boys. But I mean, more recently they've produced the likes of Sergi Samp, haven't they? Munir, who have both been farmed out and then sold to other Spanish clubs. You've got Sergio Roberto, who's getting a game at right back when his preference is centre midfield. Joseph, I'm going to come to you first. How do you solve a problem like La Masia?
Well, it's an extremely difficult question to answer. I mean, they're not the only players that have been sold. Let's not forget Pedro's also gone. You've got Marc Bartra who's gone to Dortmund, and Bula, who we were talking about a minute ago, has gone to Monaco this summer.
Even Alcantara when he left.
There's a lot. Gerard Deulofeu, they've just recently bought back. I think, well, a report I read recently suggested heavily, it was including actually comments from Barcelona coaches, that they are focusing far more on physical attributes than they once were. Once upon a time, they were extremely technically based. Part of the reason, obviously, that you've seen the likes of Messi flourish, you've seen Iniesta flourish, quite small guys when they first broke into the team. Now, it's apparently routine that you'll hear around La Masia, oh, it's a shame he's so small. It's a shame he hasn't got the height.
Is that not Real Madrid propaganda?
No, this is genuinely an article that included quotes from Barcelona coaches, so it seemed very legit. I think another major problem that La Masia have is that there is now, amongst both our generation and the social media generation, an extreme clamour for signings, and big name signings at that. Okay. If you're not a signing and you're sort of bought through the youth system, I'm going to use a player here that's obviously going to get me a lot of stick, but I know a lot about him, Jesse Lingard. Right, okay. Bought through the youth system, not an exceptional player by any standards, not a world beater on the pitch. He's never going to be a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Gareth Bale, but consistent, didn't cost us a thing. Mancunian born, brought up from our academy sort of like 8-9 years old. There's the photos of him in oversized shirts.
Good squad player, knows the core values
exactly.
of the side,
but
the
gets
area.
So much stick from Manchester United fans. Gets hammered by us.
So you think this is a wider problem?
I think this is a wider problem, but it's almost, it's perfectly seen at Barcelona. If you're not a big name signing being bought in, i.e. Andre Gomez bought in, I think Barcelona fans still clamour for those big name signings. They want Verratti through the door. Let's have it right. They want Verratti to be joining that team, and partly because he's an amazing player, but also partly because he's that big names. There's a bit about him, do you know what I mean? A bit of pizzazz, a bit of star quality.
But what about Paulinho, who they're bringing in, right?
It's the complete opposite.
Why isn't there a better central defensive midfield option or a box-to-box midfielder, whatever he's developed into now?
Because they're so quick to sell him.
They're so quick to sell them
for 40 million. Look how quickly they got rid of Sergi Samper.
What do you think about it, mate?
I've got kind of three major issues with it. One is I think they're looking at it backwards in the first place, right? So they're saying, well, there were 7 La Masia graduates when we won in 2009. Now there are fewer than that, and that should be the norm. 7 should be the norm. Whereas actually, it's not. It's the other way around.
Yeah, exceptional generation.
Like that. Yeah, that's an
ridiculous
exceptional generation. You've produced several of the world's greatest footballers. Obviously, you're going to keep them. Obviously, they're going to play in your team. You win the Champions League, and everybody now assumes that it should be the same going forward. I think that's ridiculous. The second thing is that there are plenty of top-class La Masia graduates out there. They're just not necessarily playing for Barcelona. Of course, we've got Rafinha, who's been injured, who is at Barcelona, but we've got Thiago, as we've spoken about already. You've got Keita Balde, who looks like he's going to go for a big fee this summer. You've got Mauro Icardi, who's tearing it up in Italy. These are La Masia graduates. Even if you want Adama Traore, as limited as he is, he produced 8 dribbles a game last season in the Premier League, which is so anomalous as to be remarkable. You know, those are interesting things. And then look at the final thing, which is, let's say that you have one of the world's best academies that consistently produces great players, and then 2 of the guys who help to run it are poached by the best funded team in the world, and that team says to them, we want you to build the greatest academy in the world. We're going to give you infinite money, and we're going to bring in the best coach that your side ever had. That's what's happened with Man City.
Begiristain, right?
Yeah, Begiristain, Ferran Soriano, now they've got Guardiola. So these 3 guys are now running a club who have infinite resources, a huge scouting network, and have the best funded youth campus in world football. So no wonder Barcelona are going to suffer over the next 5 to 10 years.
Didn't Alex Garcia go from Barcelona to Manchester?
Yeah, some of these players seem to go from one to the other and back again. You know,
I remember that being quite
keep track of.
Guys, what do you think? Is there anyone out there who can explain why with any more clarity? Please.
Probably not.
Shed light on it. Let us know in the comments below. Haven't even done a poll this week, lads. So
not
sorry
one.
about that.
Not one.
Should there be a poll in next week's Continental Club?
Poll it.
Vote in the poll just
Brilliant.
So that was this week's Continental Club, guys. Is there an issue at hand you'd like us to discuss next week? As always, get at us on Twitter, on Instagram, and, you know, maybe even send us a letter.
Wow.
With a quill.
We'll never read it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And see you next week.
Bye.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Sayonara.